All right, yay. Super excited to have Donna Ferreira here with us. Ferreira, Portuguese.
Yeah.
Thank you, Donna. I love your story. I love watching you. I love seeing everything you've been doing over the last several years, but even before that, because we've known each other for a little while now. So tell everybody, who is Donna?
Yeah, I was just doing that math last night on how long we've known each other, and I was thinking maybe like 15 years was when we first met. Uh,
Probably.
yeah, I'm an educator. It's in my blood. It's what I've always done. I started working at the YMCA when I was 15 years old, and um, thought I'd find different avenues to maybe make it more career driven and a higher income. But unfortunately, in education, that's just continues to be a challenge. Went to University of North Florida and grew up in Jacksonville. So I worked at YMCA, and I'm actually like ninth generation North Florida from St. Augustine to Fernandina. So
Oh, wow.
aunts and uncles, cousins, everybody close by. And it was always nice growing up and having that family support, having a big family around.
Nice. Nice. So what are some of your recent accomplishments? Like somebody in Fernandina, they're gonna go like, "Oh, that's Donna." Why is that?
Mainly I've taught older children. When Jason jokes, we go out to Mezcal or somewhere for dinner, and he's like, "You're the mayor. Everybody knows you." And I said, "No, I'm just a teacher. Like teachers kind of feel like rock stars when we go out because the kids don't expect to see you." And um, I do enjoy Fernandina for that. I tell everybody it's like living in Mayberry. It was a great place to raise my son. I've been here about 18 years now, and Fernandina is a really special place. And like you were mentioning before, the support that I've gathered for education, I just tell people all the time, it's for the kids. You got to do it for the kids
I know.
because people believe in that. So
I can't wait to dive into what I've been observing and talking to you a little bit about here and there over the last few years. Some cool momentum happening. So, what did you just recently open?
So I recently opened Seaside Learning Academy, which is a preschool for children ages 2 to 5. And then we want to expand into after school care programming, some special programming like working with drones, working with Lego robotics, just more of that cool school age stuff. The preschoolers are fun, but they're kind of limited in their skill set. So it's fun to get the older kids in there too and to be able to do fun things with them.
Are you saying like after school program for them? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. So from like 2:30 to 6 p.m., it would be a full day after school. We'll work you to get a bus stop nearby so that they can take the public bus right over from the schools and really help parents out with that because transportation and everything is a lot for parents that are working full
Well,
time.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's a cool new thing that I'm unaware of because my kids are like mid and late 20s. So, dual purpose daycare and then after school for older kids, is that a thing
A
nowadays?
little bit. I mean, they're not together in the same population. We do keep them separate because you don't really want a two
Mm.
or 3 year old around a 10 or 12-year old, just size wise and safety. But yeah, the kids. I know there's a couple other schools on the island that offer preschool during the day and then after school care in the afternoon. But then we've got
Okay.
the Boys and Girls Club and a few other models out there. And we just want something maybe a little bit more structured, right? A curriculum and certain programming, homework help, tutoring, that sort of thing.
Beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So, what got you started on this career path? Do you always know that you want to be a teacher? Or what was young Donna's brain thinking?
So my mom got sick when I was 15 years old. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and she deteriorated pretty quickly over 3 years and passed away when I was 18. So I
Mm,
was a high school dropout. I got my GED. And for me, it was finding alternative education that worked for all students. I feel like we have this very cookie cutter, industrialized view of education, and kids are not cookie cutter. So my
mm.
goal was actually to become a school psychologist, help hopefully develop new programming, develop campuses, develop things that think outside the box for our kids and give them options and opportunity. Fortunately, after getting my bachelor's degree, I in a marriage and had a child and was told that the ROI just wasn't there for my master's degree. So unfortunately, I did not get that. I did learn a lot in my years in education. Worked a lot with special needs kids, profoundly handicapped, nonverbal, ranges, and learned a lot from that, but also experienced a lot of burnout that because you want to take these babies home, like you just want to help them all, and
Oh gosh, for sure.
possible. So that has evolved over the years, and I've gone more into early childhood education because, especially post COVID, I think we're seeing a decline in our students, kindergarten and first grade, and what they're learning at home, their fine motor skills, their social skills, their communication skills. These are the things that give the children the basis to be successful in elementary and middle school and beyond. So just really wanting to help those kids early on.
You know, you mentioned schools aren't really set up to work with children without being cookie cutter, you know. And my daughter was my oldest, and she was one of those book smart type kids, right? Which I was too. So it was, you know, I could practically sleep in a class and still get an A. Like that's just how my brain was, right? But my son was not like that. And literally, he'd probably kill me for saying this, but in kindergarten, he had come home crying and said, other kids are raising their hand to answer a question, and I still don't know what she's saying. Oh my God, makes me want to tear up right now. And he struggled like that all of school. So he did get a psychological, psychoeducational assessment. And then it became like a fight, literally, with the schools every year because one, they didn't want to hold him back the first year to give him an extra leg up. But then, and actually had said to me, well, that's not good for our stats. And I know you want, but what I observed for every single year in school was I'd meet him and I would meet with his teachers early in the season, and they're right on board. You know, we understand what you're saying. We'll definitely help him out. It ended up being a short-term memory deficit issue, and by January, February, never failed. They were annoyed because they really didn't have the tools for him. They just kept putting him in like extracurricular reading class. Like that was all they had. Or somebody, assistant would walk around and help kids if they asked for it. And I was like, but here's, you know, documentation of what he needs. And what started happening it was high school, he just started giving up. Literally, he wouldn't even write down the homework. And then they were getting mad at him and they're like, he's not even trying. I'm like, I know, I've watched it happen. He gave up on the system, really.
Yeah.
And he thought he was dumb.
I tell my parents all the time, you to be your child's best advocate, you have to be there in those meetings. And it's a full-time job for a parent that has a child with any kind of special needs, you know. And these parents are working full-time and they have other responsibilities, and you have to be the squeaky wheel to get your child the attention that they need. But unfortunately, the supports aren't there in our public school system. They can't afford it. We can't have one-on-one aides. They haven't figured out a model yet is effective to help these students with different learning abilities.
And I see that, and I really don't fault him for it. And obviously I was frustrated through the process. Like I remember sitting in a meeting and he was regularly failing spelling tests, right? Memory, right? So the teachers ended up saying, well, you know, there is editing tool. There are spell check nowadays. My husband doesn't even know how to spell, and he just uses spell check. And then they curved his grade. They deliberately I was shocked. I had never thought like that would even be an option. I'm like, so you're basically gonna lie on his scores so he doesn't feel bad about
Yeah,
himself?
that's not helping either.
Holy, I was shocked. But it was a struggle. And then that principal, he admitted that they had dropped the ball significantly. He was going to make sure Charlie did good in high school. They're going to meet with the guidance counselors and everything. The first meeting in high school, they had not done any of the customizations. I forget the word now that you guys use. They had, yeah. And one of the teachers said, well, he doesn't have a learning disability, so I don't need to put him in the front of the classroom. I'm like, that's not why that's on there. But anyways,
right.
We walked out. We didn't go back. So you know all this. You've observed all this. What do you want to do different? Like, what are you doing different?
We're really trying to create a family atmosphere. I always tell people we can only help the child as much as we know or help the family. We have to know the circumstances of the household in which this child is living in. We have to know what supports are naturally in place, what supports the parents might need help with. The intervention is key. As you were saying, kindergarten to me is almost too late. goal is to get intervention by age 3 for these kids. We do have, there's been a big push lately with government funding, Child Find, and for helping these younger students so that we can help them before they get to kindergarten. Our local elementary schools now has extended their pre-K program, and it's only for students with an IEP or labeled developmentally delayed. Mainly since COVID, what I've seen is the communication skills. Many of these babies have never been in a preschool setting before. Started working from home, so they weren't sending children to daycare, maybe staying with grandma or grandpa, and they're just not getting that peer-to-peer interaction to know how to communicate their wants, their needs, their feelings, not only to their peers, but to their teachers as well. So we work a lot on communication, and I work closely, having worked at elementary school and with special needs kids. I've always developed good relationships with my speech therapists, speech and language therapists, and facial therapists, even physical therapists occasionally. But the occupational therapy and the physical therapy, or excuse me, occupational therapy and speech and language therapy have become an integral part of our early childhood education. The technology, we're seeing more and more kids that are losing their fine motor ability. They're used to a touch screen, not manipulating objects as much. They're not playing Play-Doh. We talk about play as being the foundation for learning, and I think that is said a lot. We're getting back to that, but that play is also working their fine motor muscles, their fingers, their hands, and strengthening those things to get them ready for the writing skills they're going to develop at age 5 and 6.
I love that. When I was getting my degree in psychology, I learned about the Montessori method and fell in love with the concept behind it. And that's where my kids did go when they were younger. And I used to sit behind that one-way mirror and just like be teared up watching them. I mean, at home, prior to Montessori, they were dumping their stuff all over the floor. You know, I had like a laundry basket for their toys. At the end of the day, everything went back in.
Yeah.
And literally overnight, they got one tray, you know, with Play-Doh and go sit down, play with that one thing, and then put it away. I was like, what in the world?
Teaching procedures and routine is probably the most important part of early childhood education, whether it be in a Montessori classroom or Waldorf or a typical preschool classroom. Routine is so important. Expectations. Kids work harder when they know there's high expectations of them. They may not reach them, but they will work towards it and they will get there. They'll get further down the road with that.
I get it. And I love that. It's, you know, especially as I've gotten older and I see young kids and different generations raising, and I feel like there's sometimes the less of an expectation level for that child, or sometimes I'm seeing like it's almost like that kid's being given free rein without some structure or without some guidance or boundaries. And I'm like, that kid's too, do you know, it's like doesn't really have a 40-year-old brain to make decisions. Like,
Right.
I don't know. It's
I-
something I'm just observing.
That's true. And kids are not little adults. And sometimes people look at children as just being a small adult, and they're not. They don't have the same frontal
Yeah.
lobe development. They don't have the same motor control. They don't, the social skills. All of that has to be taught explicitly. And that is really important in this early childhood phase. I was just with my 2-year-olds yesterday for a little bit. And then I went back to the 4-year-olds, and one of my teachers, Allison, was with me in pre-K for 5 years. And now she's teaching our 3-year-old class. And she's like, Anna, I can't do the same art projects with them. They're just not ready yet. And it's just amazing that growth when you're able to see a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 4-year-old. The growth that happens in that 2-year span is just incredible. And they have to have experiences to have that growth.
It's so fascinating.
It is. Child development and brain development and connecting all the neurons. There's a lot of science that's come up in the last 20 years, probably.
Yeah, I love it. This is going to seem like a really odd analogy, but you know, I have this little handicapped dog and I work from home a lot, right? Like I own the shotgun club, but fortunately I have great employees, my son and his wife and others. So I don't have to be there all the time. And then my mental training is like, you know, on the computer a ton and virtual calls and such. So I'm like, how had this dog had been taken care of if somebody don't work from home? Like it just needs that much attention. And it makes me think of a child, you know, young adolescent. And I was working from home then, and I was able to be very hands-on. But how I mean, you have to really trust who's raising your child, because if you're working 8 to 4, 9 to 5, or whatever the hours are nowadays, that person's raising your kid or that group of
It's
people.
a lot of the time with them and having a great influence on them. Yes, and I have a new family that just moved down here from another state, and both mom and dad are doctors. They're the sweetest, youngest couple. They have 2 young children, and I promise you, those children are in their preschool or at their school from 7:30 in the morning until 5:30 in the evening. And quality early childhood education is why I built Seaside Learning Academy. I mean, I could have gone and done it for less money and had a lot of
Mhm.
headaches doing it for somebody else. But I didn't like the way anybody else was doing it in our community, to be honest with you. It was either Montessori based or religious based. And I wanted something that was more,
Available to
yeah, just not
Mhm,
Montessori is prices a lot of people out of the market. A lot of our young
mhm.
can't afford $15,000 a year for childcare. This is where we're at. And it was a question that was brought up during one of the first presidential debates is how do we help young families
Mm.
get quality childhood education? Not just, I hate the term daycare. I mean, the city wanted to use it when I was getting my variances. And I'm like, no, we are not a daycare. We are an academy. We're a preschool.
Ah,
And I think
okay.
that's very important to me to be called a school and focus on education because we are not just babysitting children. We are providing, like you were saying, you have to know the quality of the people that are with your child, but also that they're providing quality interactions all day and planning ahead for quality projects and opportunities for learning. Like being downtown in the historic district, next week we start our walking field trips where we get to
Oh,
walk to City Hall and the post office and the
come
library.
on.
And they get to learn skills like crossing a street where we look both ways, we use a crosswalk, we stay together. These are all really good skills. But again, even if parents are working from home, they're at the computer. The child might just be playing in a very safe environment, but they might not have a lot of structure to that environment. So what we want to bring is I've always told people it's my job to make your kid love school. I want him to think it is the funnest place to go. I said,
I wanna go. You're talking about these walking field trips. I'm like, "Can I go? Can I
"Oh,
you?"
volunteers."
I'm like, "I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it." You may or may not be shocked by this, but again, my kids are, like, mid and little bit late 20s. When I was looking for daycare, I was looking for part-time daycare. I went to 2 places that were on the island, and they may or may not still be there,
Yeah.
and one of them I observed, and the way that they were speaking to the kids and, like, yelling at them and not getting up off the chair to redirect, I was like, I feel like these I'm, like, college educated, love psychology, love child development, fascinated by all of it, and why would I let somebody who possibly isn't educated or doesn't have the same insight or even care or passion or love or whatever, why would I let my kid be with that person for 7 hours a day? Like, that would be their foundation and structure, and what they were learning to be like themselves, and, so I, checked that one off the list. I'm like, "Nope." I went to another one, Donna, and they let me observe. That happened to be playground time, so I go outside, I'm observing, and then, after a while, I'm like, "Okay, whatever." They're all just playing on the playground and being observed. I go to leave, and there's a kid locked in the bathroom and asking for help, and what had happened was, like, a bookshelf had fallen and trapped the door,
Oh my God.
and there was no adult. So I go to help this kid, and the pants are down, and I'm like, "This ain't good."
No,
Like, glad I'm not a psycho, but this is not good. I'm like, cross that one off, and I end up doing in-home daycare, but I love your experience, your knowledge, your insight, your love, your passion. Like,
thank
I want to go to your academy.
thank you. And this is the big problem in early childhood education is yes, you do have to be passionate to work with young children all day. It is hard. You have to have the patience of Job. Like you have to. But it's also a field where we're only paying people $14 to $18 an hour. So unfortunately, you're going to get what you pay for. And that's what worries me. Being a small business owner, one of my goals is to really be able to pay my staff what they're worth because they're worth what they're
Mm.
told. If I can trust them to lead them and for an hour to do something like this, I have to have quality people that I can trust. I also have cameras in every classroom, not for parents
Mhm.
to see, but it's always just for us in the office if we ever need to look at anything. I think that's important too. But we have to do something as a society, as a country. And I look at it like I was in Japan last summer, and Japan has a very much a multi-generational culture where the
Mhm.
grandparents and the young children and the parents, they're all working together for the betterment of the family. And I think in the United States, what tends to happen is we get more spread out. We don't live close to grandparents. We don't live in the familial communities like that we used to. And so parents are
Mhm.
relying on this external support of preschool and teachers that they might not know, but they have to love them and trust them and build that relationship. So for me, that's really important in my school now is building relationships, not only with the children, but with the parents as well, so that we do build that trust and we do build that communication to best help the child.
Great observation, and, I could definitely see what you're saying there as well, and it takes a village to raise a kid, and we have gotten away from that a little bit. I do see it with, one of my employees, but she's also like a daughter to me, and she has a 3-year-old, and she loves to bring her to the shotgun club because and she always says, "I want you to influence her, like, I want you to redirect her, I want you" she wants us all, meaning me, my son, my son's wife, she wants us involved in helping her raise her daughter, and I get that. Again, because 'cause I'm fascinated with psychology and all that. I have different boundaries and ways that I interact with her than, let's say, my fiancé, right? And even her mother or even my son or even my son's wife, and I can see how the 3-year-old adapts depending on what she can get away with what person, right? It's just so
What a skill that
fascinating.
is going forward in life to be able to take redirection or take praise or constructive criticism from different personalities. I mean, I used to tell
Yeah.
my son all the time, you're going to have a teacher you don't like. Just like one day you're going to have a boss that maybe you don't agree with, but you're going to have to find a way to compromise and get along and coexist with people from all backgrounds. So I think that's what your coworkers do there is fantastic. I think kids should learn. That's something we experience in the classroom as kids come in and they've never been around anybody but mom or dad. So they're not
Mhm.
taking direction from other adults. And that's an important part. Learning and how to be in school. And we don't even think how we have to teach children how to walk in a line, how to sit in a chair, how to sit a circle time. Like we are getting down to the basics.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Wow. Well, tell me a little bit about this journey that you've been on with opening your academy. So tell me, like, when did the dream start? When did actions start happening? Because watching from the outside, it's been like the momentum's been unbelievable
big.
from, looking to purchase that property. But I'm sure there was much going on before that. Like you came back from traveling, I think, ready to
I
just
did.
kill it. So what happened?
Yeah, behind the scenes was probably started 3 years ago. I left the Catholic school after my divorce. I just felt like it was no longer my home or the place that I wanted to be. And that was
Mhm.
really hard. So I was like, oh my gosh, my whole identity is being a teacher. What do I do now? So I looked at just my career paths and tried different things. I even left teaching one time to try to be a mortgage lender, and that was horrible. Not my gift.
I don't see that happening.
No, no. I tried to leave education 3 times, and I keep getting drawn. But following my
Mm.
divorce, living on Amelia Island, I realized I was going to have to make more money to be able to stay in my community because the island is a little expensive. And, luckily, after the divorce, we did have some real estate holdings that we sold that had been in my family. And so I knew that I wanted to invest that money smartly so that it would last me the rest of my life. And I kept looking and thinking, I could do this. I could open up my own preschool. Let me find the right space. So I spent about a year developing my plan, developing my philosophy, my mission statement, all those things, and started working with real estate agents to look at properties. And they kept coming up as leases. And
Mm.
a couple of them that were really good, but we were talking $7,000, $8,000 a month for a
Mhm.
lease on a commercial building. And I was like, if I'm going to do this, I want to own it. And so I kind of put it on the back burner. I had met my new boyfriend, Jason, and I was like, you know what? We're just going to travel. We're going to Bali. We're going to Cabo. We're just going to almost get a job again. And then a friend of mine sent me a link on Zillow. She was pregnant with number 3. She has a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, yeah, 18-month-old, and she was pregnant with number 3.
Uh-huh.
She's like, I need you to open a preschool. She's like, here, my husband found this link. This is the building. And I was like, oh, I know this building. It
Right.
was a previous daycare. It was a previous child care facility. Yeah, it's called Early Impressions. It was in downtown Fernandina, like, great location, right by City Hall. And the nice thing was it was already set up. Classrooms, observation windows, bathrooms in every classroom, front office, like set.
Oh,
It needed, it needed a ton of TLC. It needed,
mhm.
every surface has been covered from the flooring to the walls to, new carpet in all the classrooms, new toilets, new vanities, you name it, new roofs, new fence, new landscaping, the whole thing. I think a lot of people didn't think we'd be done by August. It started in May. We closed like the second week of May, and DCF scheduled their inspection for July 17th, and we were opening August 12th. And I was like, okay, need to do this. And Jason and I basically acted as our own general contractors, and thank goodness for his knowledge. He's a former Army Ranger and has worked in the field of surveillance and been director of operations for many companies. So he brought a skill set and knowledge that I don't. I'm more the creative, ADHD, play with the kids all day. He's more of, you need this structure, you need this checklist, you need to get this done. And yeah, my goal just became every day, put one foot inside the other and knock off as many tasks as you can from your to-do list. You're never going to finish it every day, but hopefully if you just do a little bit every day, end of the time, you'll get to where you need to be. And somehow we did. We made it, and I couldn't believe it.
So cool to watch on social media because you could be like, we've got a pallet of rubber mulch or whatever it was. If anybody wants to come help, and then people would come, right?
They would show up. It was amazing. And I've experienced it even at my old school, at the Catholic school. I remember my friend Shannon showing up to help me spread mulch. You know me, Dawn. I do love my social media, and I am an oversharer probably, but I'll tell you what, I've used social media for good, and I've loved what I've gotten back out of it. I know it's not for everybody, but I try to be very mindful with how I use my social media, and I try to support others. And I think, it's karma when you support others and you put that out there, that they'll generally come back to you in the end.
I watched it happen for you. It was so cool. I just love that. And social media, it is what we make it, right? I mean, we can either go on there and be negative and complain, or we can go on there and be positive and uplifting. And it doesn't mean what I'm doing means somebody else has to be positive, uplifting. There's somebody else out there that's going to be negative and complaining, right? So
Absolutely.
it's like, trying to find that balance. My fiance can't stand it. I don't anybody that follows me, they're like the mystery guy, because he doesn't want me putting his picture on there. And I'm on social media a lot, and I do believe it's the modern day way to market as well. I've tried every other marketing. I've been in business for 25 years or something. Used to be the yellow pages. We advertised was the newspaper and the yellow pages. And I've been there. I've tried all of it. I even had a billboard for a year for the Shotgun Club. And social media is where it's at. So, some people do have a negative vibe around it, but it is what you make it. And that's where we go for our media, social media. That's where we go for entertainment and information now.
Everybody always has their phone in their hand. It's always close by. And for me, I think it was important too, for me to be a creator, to put ideas out there, not just be a consumer of other people's ideas. And I think you're pretty good at that too. And I think that's important, is that when we do have ideas or things that we're passionate about, like for me is early childhood education, I need to share that with everybody to get them motivated and to get them willing to donate to the cause or help us out in any way. But I do think it's important to be a creator and not just a consumer of our social media.
Yes, that makes total sense. I'm so much about help, my brain's about helping. How can I help this person? And so one of the things I'm actually working on is just being more personable, which is tricky when you have a fiance that's like, don't put my personal stuff on there, right? I'm trying to soften the edges of just being on this rampage of trying to help the whole planet, saving the planet, and trying to just be more real and personable. And I see you do that. So I see you be, really warm and personable. And I think that
And I
that's
have
an
a boyfriend
important
that
element.
I have a boyfriend that feels the same way about social media. He's like, did you take another picture of me? I said, Jeff, let's take one. It's fine.
Yeah, Joe's more like, don't you dare post that. Yeah. So what challenges have you faced in this career?
Mhm.
But let's say also in becoming an entrepreneur, because those are kind of two different things, right?
Sure. I think for me, I'm always worried about other people's perceptions of me, especially as a teacher. When I was at the Catholic school, I felt that weight very heavy. What was my persona when I'm out in the community? For Amelia Island is a very tight knit, talkative community. And, not that I'm out dancing on the bars at the palace or anything, but I do like to go to mezcal and have a margarita. And I don't want that ever to be, taken the wrong way or taken out of context. So for me, I think just being part of the community and having that balance between opening myself up and protecting certain things as well. Other than that, the challenge is keeping construction workers on the timeline was quite the challenge during this project. The pay rate for early childhood educators and what you can charge parents versus what we need to pay and getting the bills paid. I think that was a challenge for me. I'm getting more into grant writing and trying to find alternate sources of funding, which is a full-time job in itself.
For sure.
I think as an entrepreneur, it's the number of hats that you have to wear.
Mm-hmm.
Allocating time for each of those roles and each of those jobs and not focusing. I can get lost with the kids and spend all day in the classroom and playing. And the next thing I know, I look and it's 3:00 and I haven't looked at my email and I haven't done all the other ownership things that I need to do.
Yes,
Right now, it's finding the balance between wearing all hats.
for sure. And, at some point, you'll probably feel like you're on the fence with, do I have enough money to hire an assistant or an office manager, or whatever you would call it? And you're right there. You're like, "Ugh, I know if I do it, it's gonna pay off in the long run, but it's a stretch financially." And gosh, I've been on that spot many times over the, 25 years. And it's such a great feeling to be on the other side of it. But I've been there,
Right.
and I just know what that feels like. So right now I do wear a lot of hats, and it quite literally feels like that. Like I can get a phone call for, there's a fire at the shotgun club. That happened last week. Nothing major, nothing major. But the 5 minutes before that phone call, I was like doing payroll, or half an hour before that, I was doing a private session with somebody virtually. And it literally feels like just changing hats. And to me, that's what helps a person to be successful, is the ability to do that. But I also have seen, you have to be deliberate about it sometimes. Like, I am going to focus right now on, let's say, payroll. There's a deadline for it, right? Or
I'm adding payroll to my list this afternoon.
yeah, you have to get in that zone, which is something I want to talk to you about. My fiance's watched this with me. He knows that if I'm like, I don't know, type in and I'm here, it almost like everything disappears around me. And he's figured out that if he asks me a question or even tells me something that he wants me to remember, it needs to be not in that moment, or I need to like literally stop what I'm doing and then give him my attention. And but yeah, getting in that zone.
I think we is debunked the theory of multitasking. Like, multitasking does not work. I make a to-do list and I have to be very meticulous about picking one task and staying with it until it's finished. And that's also my ADHD that comes into play. I used to think I was good at multitasking, right? Like I was getting everything done, but it was probably taking me twice as long and I was forgetting half the things I needed to do.
In the mental training that I teach, one of the concepts about your conscious mind is that you can literally only focus on one thing at a time. It's said that the conscious mind, you can juggle up to 7 elements at a time, but I don't even agree with that. think about this. You have to be to work, right? So you're trying to get out the door and then you're like, where's my keys or where's my purse? And then the cell phone rings. You know, somebody's calling you and then you've got your coffee and you've just spilt it. Like there's 4 things right there and that's enough. I'm already like, I got to hang up. I can't talk right now
Yeah.
because I have to find my keys and I have to pick up this coffee that I just spilled. And so I think it's more like it can only juggle 3 things at a time, but it only focuses on one at a time. You can feel that happen and you can then deliberately do it. Honey, I just spilt my coffee. And so I can't focus on that conversation right now.
Right.
So then I would then deliberately focus on the coffee, right? And then when I maybe get in the car and I know that I can focus on that conversation, of course, hands free, I would then call back so I could focus on that, right? And that's something that we can very deliberately do. Like, when I pull out of the garage, if I'm thinking of something else, I may not recall if the garage door went down. So I have to stop, look at it, and be like, this is what I'm giving my undivided attention to right now.
Yeah.
So you've seen that.
It's like that. I used to always leave the house and be like, did I lock the door? Did the garage door close? And you're right. I physically would start making myself watch the garage door close. And like literally making a mental note as I watched it close. So that when I drove away, I could be like, oh yeah, I know I did that.
Yes. And that's how you can be all day. That's called mindfulness. And when I work with the athletes, that's one of the things I'm teaching them, because if they're thinking about their score or a previous station or like the PJ Tour pros, one of my clients had said, well, whenever the cameras come, then I know I'm probably in the lead or close to it. And then he would always fall apart. And so, you know, being able to be what I call the supervisor of your mind and rather than a victim of it. So tell me about your mental state in the process of opening this school. How did you do mentally and how was your stress level and how did you manage yourself so you could, well, I would assume you would know that's to be your best, right? In order to.
There were stressful days, but I do think I've learned through my divorce, which was 3.5 years ago now. I think I've learned a lot about myself. I learned to trust myself more and trust my instincts. I don't think I had that level of confidence before. I got married young. I got married at 21. And so for me, it was a period of great growth. I'm all about making a to-do list. And yes, it's still on paper. Jason makes fun of me. I try to make my to-do list every day and just cross off as many things as I can. There were only 2 times that I dissolved into tears and climbed into bed. Once was when they changed the fire code and they tried to tell me that I was going to have to install a sprinkler system in the ceiling. A 5,000 square foot building, which after doing a little research, I discovered cost about $200,000.
Ouch.
And so I was like, nope, that's it. Gil's dead. We're done. I'm getting in bed. And then fought through that, made more calls, used my resources to add friends, family, people that I could count on. They did some research for me, and we ended up finding a solution that cost me nothing. Because this didn't,
Incredible.
right? I mean, it would have literally killed the deal. And then towards the end, there was some stressful late nights. Thinking as we were talking earlier, setting the boundaries of time, like wearing the different hats at work and giving myself tasks and all. One of those tasks is also to come home and take care of myself.
Yes.
I have to remember that part of the equation too, because it's easy. I love what I do. I can do it all day, but it's not always the healthiest thing. Even if you're doing what you love, you still need downtime. So scheduling in that downtime, making sure that happens, and allowing myself these moments where it's like, okay, that's terrible. How am I going to overcome that? Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll fail, but you know what? I won't know unless I try. And so that just became my motto every day, was just put one foot in front of the other and hopefully we'll get to the finish line. And if not, at least I'll know that I tried. I'd rather try and fail than to just sit back and regret it when I'm 70 or 80 that I didn't try it.
For sure. I've experienced a lot of what you said there. I love what I do. That's not an exaggeration. So it's really easy for me to just work all day. And I am working again on giving myself weekends. And it's gotten to a point where I'm like reminiscing what a weekend used to feel like. And I say that because my shotgun club is closed Tuesday, Wednesdays, right? So the weekend for the shotgun club employees is Tuesday, Wednesday. My mental training is Monday through Friday. And then I've got Joy to the Children as well. And we're planning for the Terror on the Timber Farm. And what else? Oh, and I've got the Mind Mastered app, right? So it's like 7 days. They all run into each other, confused on what day of the week it is all the time. But yeah, I've been reminiscing, like going back to elementary school or just school age, when you would look forward to Friday, you'd wake up Saturday morning and it would be different than the weekday. We'd have pancakes and more leisurely, and I might take a nap during the day,
Right, it was
or
one
just
day you could watch cartoons too. These kids
yeah. Oh my God, I forgot
get
about
up
that.
at Saturday morning with our only chance. So
True, I forgot all about Saturday morning cartoons. But yeah, I have like great memories of what a weekend felt like. And I haven't felt that. I have a little bit of a memory also from in my 20s when my kids were young. And then at times, if they napped, I either cleaned or took a shower or something, or I'd nap myself. I'm in my early 50s now. And so I haven't felt that way since. So I'm like having to relearn for real. I asked Joe, I'm like, Joe, you got to help me remember what a weekend is. And we got to implement it on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, because
yeah.
I just can't keep doing this anymore. I love it. Like you said, I love it, but I'll just keep putting more on my plate.
Well,
I started the Clay Shooter
you're
podcast. Now this one. And
Yeah, you
yeah.
did a little reel the other day with the sponge soaking up the water, and that really rang true with me. Like we talk about it all the time, right? You have to refill your own self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Self-care can look like a lot of different things for a lot of people. It doesn't have to mean a day at the spa or going to get your nails done. It can just mean sleeping in on a Saturday morning or turning off your phone for a couple hours. That's the other thing, being a small business owner, just in general, we are always at the mercy of our phones. And I think going back to reminding myself, just because somebody texts me doesn't mean I have to text them right back. Just because somebody
Mm-hmm.
calls me doesn't mean I have to pick up the phone. I have voicemail. I can do them. And so I think I get caught up in that, oh, I have to answer this right away. This person needs
Mm.
like being able to set those boundaries has been really helpful.
Definitely. I had mentioned earlier before we start recording that there's pros and cons to being self-employed, and to me, more pros than cons. And the self-care, and this is something else Joe and I talked about, like I get my mani-pedi every 10 to 12 days. We go for massages maybe once a month. We do enjoy going to Ola for coffee. There are things that I would consider self-care that I do, but I don't do them like smushed into a weekend. You know what I mean? At 2:00 on a Thursday, we could go, hey, let's go to Ola, and we'll go. It's whatever, 2:00 on a Friday, I'm going to get a mani-pedi. The self-care, I've noticed for myself, it can still happen, but I'm leaning towards like this stuff needs to be put into 2 days of not working also.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
having that.
being able to make my own schedule or get people to cover me or, the flexibility in that. But the responsibility is still always there in the back of my head. Like I'm thinking about what's going on at school right now and is everybody okay? What are they doing?
For sure.
That's hard
For
to
sure.
turn it off mentally sometimes.
Yeah, and like you said, you are attached to your phone as an entrepreneur, and like Joe had said, well, on Tuesday, Wednesdays, you can just shut your phone off, and because the shotgun club's closed. I'm like, well, I actually can't, because there's a security system, and that can get set off, and it does get set off. It can
Sure.
get set off for different reasons. So I'm really never off the clock. Like even at midnight or 1 a.m., something could happen that I need to go take care of. Same with you, because you own a
Building.
commercial building, no different than your house. Like if something happened, you got to take care of it. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of responsibility with the weight of your staff, making sure that they get their paychecks,
Yes.
because they need to put food on their table. And tell me if you've experienced this at all. For a while there, I would almost feel bad if I was on vacation, or if I went and bought, I have like a Mercedes convertible right now. If I went and bought a nice car, or if I'm coming in there, they're working and I'm coming in and I just came off the beach or something, and I would feel bad, because I'm like, God, they're working and I just came from a mani-pedi and they're working and I just bought myself a nice little convertible. and I would feel bad, and I've had to work on that.
Me too.
Do you ever
And I do recognize like there's a lot I'm doing behind the scenes that they don't see or recognize. And also it's all on me. Like the whole building, like anything good, it's all on me. That's a huge
Mhm.
responsibility. But this did actually just come up the other day because, again, my teachers are wonderful, wonderful ladies. I wish I could pay them every penny that they're worth, but you know, 14 to $16 an hour is where we're starting out. And one of them the other day, I said something about going to Mezcal, and she was like, "Oh, I wish I could afford to go to Mezcal."
Mm, mhm.
I felt, and then I was like, I'll take you anytime you want to go. I was like, let's make a date. Let's go to Mezcal. Like, I can, you know, I can't afford it all the time, but I can afford, you know, teach you to Mezcal. And she's got 2 teenage daughters, and we know teenage daughters are like having a little best friend with no money, and they want you to buy an
Exactly.
She spends everything on her daughters, which is wonderful. But, you know, as a mom, she's not left for much to herself. And I tell all my teachers, I'm amazed and blessed. And I feel still lucky that they believed in my vision and they believed in my ability to pull it off to come with me because they all left other jobs. And to me, that is a huge responsibility that they gave up jobs that they were maybe happy at or at least
Yeah.
doing well at, make this jump. So then I really felt the pressure of making it successful, not only for me, but for them as well.
Yeah, I feel you. I've seen that. And one of my employees, well, like I said, it's my son and my daughter-in-law, right? And if I'm hearing them having to make a financial decision because they can't afford blah blah blah, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel bad. And then I'm like, wait, they are getting paid really well, and that's probably because I feel responsible to that, and I don't want to be prancing around, in a fancy car and them not feeling like they're getting their fair share. Not, I don't even mean the fair share. Just if the club was making $1 million, I'd pay them 100,000. I would do it. I would buy them a house. Like not that that's the right thing to do, but that's how I feel, and it's because of them that I can go get a mani-pedi,
Right.
but they're not the ones working at 10 o'clock or driving to the club at 2 a.m. because the alarm went off, or figuring out how to pay, a $30,000 bill that month and then a 20,000 the next month. It's good to recognize that, we are the ones sacrificing and we're the ones carrying the weight of the responsibility, and that's just part of ownership, right?
It is. It is. And I have been trying to tell this teacher that, I love you and I love what you do, but just because I'm not here doesn't mean I'm not working in some capacity. Because you don't see me in a classroom doesn't mean I'm not meeting with the city about a dead tree on the neighbor's property, or I'm not meeting with a plumber about an issue, or, I'm always scheduling some handyman to come fix something because, again, you own the building that comes. Oh, man, I own a building with 7 bathrooms, so there's always something.
Yeah, right?
7 things that little children use and, put too much toilet paper in and so, yeah, there are a ton of responsibilities on the side, and they could be little, even just trying to be more involved in the community, trying to be more involved with the
Mm.
neighbor, find value in that. But then sometimes, employees are like, "Oh, you're just going to lunch?" I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm going to network. This is important too." So
I
it
I just say I have an appointment. It could be anything. It could be a mani-pedi, it could be an appointment with myself on the beach, it could be with, the air conditioning guy, it could be that I'm sitting and, doing bills or doing a podcast. Like, I just don't even say
get
what
better
I'm
at
doing
that. I
anymore.
have an appointment.
Mm,
Less is more
yeah.
sometimes. I think I give people too much, and I think you're right. I think less can be more in those instances.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something I've seen. So, what's your feeling around how important it is to love what you do or have fun doing what you
I
do?
wish everybody could. That was one thing I really struggled with my ex-husband was he always complained about work and always talked about retirement. And just how much money could we save so that he could retire at 55 and all these things.
Mm,
So, and I always loved teaching, but there was not enough money in teaching.
mhm.
The thing I love about being with Jason and that he's really taught me is that it is good to love what you do. And Like I said earlier, he's a director of investigations for organized retail crime, which didn't even know what that was when I met him, but you get the idea. And he truly, truly has always loved what he does. And he's passionate about it, and he sits on boards of different organizations for it. And I do. I think it's really important to find something in our life, whether it be your job or maybe just a social cause that you do on the side. But I think we all need something in life that brings us joy and that we're passionate about and that we want to share our knowledge with others.
Yes, yes, it's so true. And a lot of it is mindset, like just how do I look at and how do I feel about rain? I look out the window and I'm like, oh, it's freaking dreary. It's raining. It's so miserable, and versus it's raining. And, if I'm a farmer, I'm excited because my crops are being fed, and it's really a matter of how we choose to think about things and look at things, which is within our control. We don't necessarily realize it. So, yeah, how we perceive our job, our work, or going to, our place of employment every day is a lot controlled by ourselves. But then at the same time, if somebody's in a career, like when you were doing mortgage stuff, if it doesn't fit, if it doesn't fit your unconscious personality, your being, your purpose here on the planet, then it will feel pretty cruddy, and we should pay attention to that.
I think we should pay attention to that feeling. I agree. And I think you're right. Our perception of what is going on around us. I've always been accused of being an eternal optimist, like to a fault. I like to see the good in everybody, the good in every situation, but I'd rather be that way than the opposite. It is sometimes pitfalls to being the eternal optimist too.
Preaching to the choir.
I will continue on that path forever. I don't know how else to be. It's the only way that I know.
Right.
Now, with the rainy, we're not getting out on the playground every day. The kids are going stir crazy in the classroom. But you know what? I love the rain. I really do. Like my grass needs it. The yard needs it. It's good to come home and take a nap in the afternoon when it's raining. So again, just finding those positives is really important.
That's so true. So where can you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
Oh, a little bit more travel. I think I got used to the travel piece, and I love to travel. And Jason, his dad lives in Australia, and he spent some time in Indonesia as a child. So his goal is to own a property in Bali. So we would like to be spending. He'd like to spend 3 months. I don't know that I could stay for 3 months, but maybe 6 weeks, and more travel. I'm do see a second center on the horizon. I really like with the growth of Nassau County and the growth of Yulee and wildlife. Maybe in a year when we get into a rhythm, start looking at properties out there. I enjoy the build out. I enjoy the setting up a new space. I think that's just as much fun as running the day to day. So, and we just have the need in our community. I mean, Nassau County is just booming at the moment, and the quality, as we talked about earlier, the quality early childhood is important. So I would love to build a state-of-the-art facility.
I love that.
It's going to take some grant money and maybe some donors. So, we'll see how much we can develop in the next year. To learn, I'm going to take some classes on grant writing to try to, find, there's a lot of money out there, especially in the world of education and children. So I'd like to learn more about that and get more on the advocacy side of things, and maybe even working with lobbyists in Tallahassee or Washington, D.C. I've hired a director for my center, so hopefully as we grow this next year, I won't have to be in the classroom and I won't have to be on campus every day. So in 5 to 10 years, I'd like to be spending more time on the advocacy and the funding side of things.
That's great. I know, from doing Joy to the Children for the last 25, 30 years, having a grant writer has always been a challenge to find someone that could do that. But the amount of time that they invest is something that's always been surprising to that person. And so we've not really been successful with having somebody as a volunteer on the board that's a grant writer. And so I've seen it over the years that's a tricky thing. But you're right. There's so much money out there also for good causes. So that's a great endeavor.
There is an art form to grant writing, and it is a career in itself. It is a full-time position, a full-time thing. So I talked with a few people locally that do have experience in it, and they've given me a few resources and, it takes time. We also have to have a full year of operation under our belts to have a proven program,
Okay.
a curriculum to show for the grants that are available. But yeah.
That makes sense. Well, what's one piece of advice or wisdom or magic pill that you would give to somebody? How about to parents with young children, but then, or any children,
Yeah.
but then also wisdom, advice for entrepreneurs starting out?
One day at a time. Just one day at a time. Just get done what you can get done and then put your head down on your pillow at night and get a good night's sleep. Sleep is important. You stay up and you fret and you create anxiety or you keep running through your to-do list in your head. It's just going to spiral out of control. You have to do your day, do a good job in the day, and then put it to rest and start over again the next day. And that's true with parents, like kids are going to have off days. They're going to push your buttons. It's what they do. And you just got to wake up and, in the classroom, we say this too. The child has a rough day and, shows some negative behavior. When they come in the classroom the next day, we're not going to bring that up again. We're not going to go back and revisit that. We're going to start fresh with a new day and a new attitude. And because all we have is the day that's given to us.
I love that. It's so true. And, you talked a few times about your to-do list, and I'm a very visual person too. I like to put on paper and I like to cross it off. But I have an app that I use too, where it like does a ding, and it's like a little square, little circle that I can click on and it moves that item. And so I totally get that. And I agree with you. Like if it's, bedtime and my mind's running through, oh, I didn't call so-and-so and I have to do this, then I write it down. Like I put it into that to-do list app or I put it in my notes and then let go. Again, but that's mindful. Like you have to deliberately do that. You have to be like, let me stop trying to go to sleep. Let me write this down because I'm worried I'm going to forget it.
Yeah.
Or I'm frustrated I didn't do it or something like that. Let me write it down and tomorrow's the new day. Like that's when it's going to happen, not at midnight, right? I can't even do that thing right now, or I shouldn't do that thing because my self-care is sleep right now.
Yeah. And I think you're right. The act of physically writing it down or getting it out of your head is going to help you with the anxiety and the rumination that can happen.
Awesome. I want to tell the listeners that they can get free goodies for any of my businesses, but also a free golf cart or push cart rental at Amelia Shotgun Sports if you go to dongrant.com/free. And Donna, could you please share your contact info, website?
Sure.
All that good stuff.
So Donna Ferreira, the owner of Seaside Learning Academy. Director is Katie Haynes. She's amazing. She's always in the front office ready to answer the phone and give tours to families. We're a preschool for children ages 2 to 5. Our website is seasidelearningacademy.org. We do have our Facebook and Instagram as well.
Beautiful. Yeah, I need to follow you on the social medias to see all the fun posts that you're doing. And my businesses have the social media too with some good tips and such that I'm sharing or we're sharing. Anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I have enjoyed your reels lately. I've been watching a few of them and good advice, just good tips for how to be more mindful about our day. And,
Thanks. Yeah. I've been really working hard on the social media and reels that, that are relatable, helpful, followable, shareable.
There's definitely an art form to creating social media. And again, just like the grant writer, the social media job could be a full-time job as well. You're doing a great job curating it. I'm enjoying it. And of course, mine is just full of cute kids. So who doesn't want to see that?
I know. And so you did say people can
also
go ahead.
Parent permission too.
Good.
And they were featured on my social media. We have parent permission.
Totally. And you said people can volunteer, right?
For sure. Yes, we do a background check, but it's just out of Nassauville Road that you go to get the fingerprint done. And then sometimes we don't need, you won't be around children. So for that, you wouldn't need a background check. Some of that is just cutting out, creating art projects for the kids, the little pieces that teachers need. They have a group of ladies coming from Lakeside, our local retirement community on the island, and I'm super excited. They're going to have that grandparent connection where they can come in and read stories. And we also have the walking field trips downtown. Obviously, we need all hands on deck for that when we're leaving campus. So, yeah, lots of volunteer opportunities.
So they can get your phone number and email off of your website. Is that good?
There's also a submission form on the website where you can submit an email right there.
I love it. I love it. And I look forward to watching you growing and expanding and all the happy kids and parents and all that.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always good to see you.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, I don't get to go to mezcal as much as I used to. As I've really cut out drinking. I don't drink as much. I've lost 30 pounds.
Congratulations.
And one of the things that I've done is cut out, the amount of alcohol, and I made an online course for weight loss that I'm following religiously as well.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'll see you there maybe at some point, and folks can come see me at Amelia Shotgun Sports, come shoot, and
Love to get out there.
it's fun. And we have a ladies' day on Saturdays.
Talked about it a few times. I'm always
That's right.
there, so we will hopefully let the weather's cooling off. I think it'll be a nice time.
Well, we consider it like team building, so you could consider it for your,
Oh.
I know, right?
I bet the girls would like that.
Yeah, it's a really cool way to be like, hey, to all your employees and be like, hey, let's go shoot. And they'll be like, what?
I think they'd be into it. I think that'd be fun. We'll have to check it out.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, thanks. And I look forward to seeing you soon and maybe have you as a guest again.
Absolutely. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.